Thank you. I appreciate that. So Laura Lee, Brian, really love your videos. Really love it. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I love doing this. I mean, it was kind of the only drawback to it is the censorship nowadays. You always just wonder like, oh, am I going to get hit? And I've already been hit once, and it's really disheartening when that happens. But overall, I can say like, it's a blessing to be able to do this for work because I couldn't go back into the corporate world after what happened, with all the fallout that I had and then getting addicted to prescription pills because I was addicted to Xanax and Klonopin. And, and what's so odd about that is I always prided myself on being like in control, you know. But once the stress got too much and I took one of those pills once, I'm like, oh, this is what it's like to not really care about anything. This is nice because I'd always worry about stuff, and that's probably a reason why, not to toot my own horn, but that's probably the reason why I was successful in the corporate world is because I was so scared to fail, and same with doing YouTube. I mean, that's why I worked for so hard for so many years on the road. I lived in my truck for 7.5 years, cranking out videos, saving money so I could buy my own place. I mean, that's a wild plan. That's not everybody can do that, and I wouldn't advise everybody to do it either. It's not easy. And when I got sick, and then when Sierra got cancer, I was like, okay, it's time to get off the road. But now, I'm really excited to get back out again and battling. Yeah, I have so much more of a better life than the corporate world, and I kind of wake up in the morning. I'm like, is this a dream? Because I always thought when I was in the corporate world, I was like, I was meant to do something more than just take orders from somebody who all I'm doing is making them money because I was in sales. And when I first started out in sales, I really loved it because I worked with a bunch of local companies. I worked in the real estate industry, so I did like online sales. I worked for a sister company of Realtor.com. And so let's see, Mike, right here, right? Oh yeah, Mike, everything's going good with Meadow. She's doing better. But so I worked for them, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. But I I noticed that um, once the local companies started to get gobbled up by these publicly traded companies, good luck getting paid. Like, and especially you'll never get paid on time ever. Like, I remember, so I had two stints in Denver with the corporate world. The first one was from 1998 to 2003, and it was great. And I had a bunch of friends that were actually, my customers, and they're friends, and we'd go hang out all the time. It was fun. And then it got just totally, annihilated when the big corporate companies came in, because the first thing they did is they come in, they clean house, they get everybody out of there. Well, everybody that was like, I had a really good relationship with the CFOs or the accounting people, whoever was in charge of paying the bills. So I would always get paid on time. As soon as the national companies took over, never got paid on time. And then you call them up and say, hey, where's my payment? Hey, we'll get your prepayment to you next week. I'm like, it's not a prepayment if it's 2 months late. Like, how come you can't figure that? And I started saying this to people because I finally got fed up. And then it was kind of funny because I don't think these people knew it, but I was on an email string with a bunch of builders, and I was going through and I was having a tough time. On paper, it said I had $66,000 in the bank, but I had been broke for 3 days and I hadn't eaten in 3 days because no because I had a list of receivables that was like 10 pages long, and some of it was as old as like 6 months old. And these companies are still calling, hey, yeah, we need service this week. I'm like, why haven't you paid me yet? So I started going nuclear on people. I'm like, until you get smart to figure out how to pay me, I'm not staffing your stuff. And I'd say stuff like that to them. And I went off on some of the people. There was this gal that worked for Century Communities, and she was the president of them. And they had just went public, and they thought they were such hot stuff. And they couldn't ever figure out how to pay an invoice. And after racking up I'd paid out of pocket about $20,000 in payroll, paid the payroll tax, paid the insurance, and here I am waiting to get paid from a publicly traded company that just went public and has $400 million of cash on hand, and they can't figure out how to pay my $40,000 in bills. And here I am, a small guy. I'm not their bank, you know, and they would look at me like I was arrogant. So I got copied on this email, and I don't think they knew it. But they're like, I can't believe Brian's still in business with the way he talks to us about our bills. And I'm like thinking, you have no clue what it's like to be in this position because you've always worked for someone else. Okay, until the onus is on you. I had a $10,000 a week payroll. Okay, you don't pay me for 5 or 6 months. That's gonna hurt, you know. And so this lady, I walked into their office, and I walked up to the front desk, and I said, I've been getting the runaround from your company, and I told this to the receptionist. I go, look, you're not in charge of this, so don't take this personally. but your company, Century Communities, has been promising me payment now for months and months and months. So if I walk out of here without a payment, the next person who walks in is my lawyer, and he is a 5'3" Jewish guy from New York. You want to mess with him? And I was like, he will tear you guys a new one. So she goes, well, let me call the CFO. I go, no, call the president. And so she called the president on the intercom, and I said, and she like walked up. She's like, "Hi, I'm so and so. Here's my card." I took her card and I threw it back at her. I said, "I will never call you, and let me tell you why." And I laid into her for about 10 minutes in her office, in the reception, like the entry, where everybody sits, like when you come into it. And my friend was vice president of sales for the company at the time, and he was around the corner. And he told me that he and all of his friends were laughing like crazy. They're like, that she needed to hear that so bad. He goes, you ripped her so hard. And he goes, every single time she tried to say something, you cut her off and you just bust out. You didn't do this, you didn't do that. And there were so many times they would call me. There was one time I was in Utah. They called me, they said, hey, we need you to come back because we got your payment, and they owe me like, it was like $40,000 at the time. Like, hey, we got your payment. And then, and also we want to talk to you about some new projects. So I leave Moab. I'm having a ball out there with Sierra. I leave Moab, I drive back, I get there, we talk about the new projects. I go, where's my check? Oh, we forgot to cut that check. We'll get that to you next week. And I told them, I said, if you ever do this to me again, I'm punching you in the face. And that's what I told him. I was so angry. I was this close to being arrested for assault because I'm like, I drove 8 hours to come back here for this meeting, and you told me that you would pay me, that you get caught up on everything, and yet here you are screwing me over again. That happened time and time and time again. I started tracking from when it was a local company. I got paid about 87% on time. After all my clients have basically been gobbled up, except for like 2 of them, all of them were purchased by these national companies. From that point on, I was only paid on time 9 weeks out of 254 weeks. And corporate America is the problem for it. It's all this crap of money over people. They look at me as a vendor. Then there's plenty of other sign companies out there. We just won't pay them. We'll just run them along. And I had a Richmond American Homes, which is MDC Holdings. They called me up and, oh, we'd love to work with you. We hear you're great, because I always had like the best team. And they were like, yeah, we want to do about $60,000 a month in business with you. And I said, okay, well that'll require a $180,000 down payment. And they said, what? And I said, it's going to be a $180,000 down payment. I need 3 months in advance, because what you guys do, and I know it because all my friends have worked with you, is you string people out and you say, we're not going to pay you for 60 days. And then after the first 60 days, you start looking at invoices and you always make up excuses to delay payment. And I said, I'm not in the business to get screwed over by people. And I know who you people are. I said, if you want my people out there, you get $180,000 to me, and then we can talk. Until then, kiss off. Because I didn't want to work for them. And so I made it a point to like kind of be aggressive to them. And what's funny about that is they respected me for that. And they kept calling back, and I said, no, I'm not doing it. They're like, well, would you do it for 25 grand? I said, no, I wouldn't do it. They're like, you're one of the hardest guys to work with. I said, no, I'm not. I'm one of the most honest guys and most straightforward guys to work with. Know the difference. I'm not hard to work with. As long as you meet the terms that I have in there, keep in mind, you're calling me. I'm not calling you. I didn't call you for business. You're calling me. And Doreen, that's actually what I did the day I decided to shut down my business. I went around to every single client that had screwed me over, and I read them the riot act, and I was not kind about it. And the reason why I did that was because I had been living in my truck by that point for about 6 months. And I realized, I'm like, there's this whole other life out there that doesn't have to deal with this corporate crap and these arrogant CFOs who all it is to them is just the numbers. They don't think about, the person behind the numbers. They think, well, we need to put off, publicly traded companies are notorious for the last quarter of the year of putting off their invoices and leaving them till next quarter so that they can show a lot of cash on hand at the end of the year. They all do that. And so once that started happening in the builder industry, good luck getting paid from September to December. It's not possible. Like, you won't get paid. Especially in December, you won't get paid from any of those corporate companies. But they want service. I had a guy one time threaten me who said, this is for Oakwood Homes. This guy's name was Rhett, I think his name, or R-H-E-T-T. He thought he was a big shot. One of those guys, young guy, but he'd like shave his head and wear all these like fancy clothes and drive a big old BMW, thought he was hot shit. And he calls me up one day and, yeah, I need more people out. I said, well, I need you to pay. He goes, what's going on? And I said, well, it sounds like you don't know. So, I know that's not your department. Your wheelhouse is marketing, not accounting. But accounting's been blowing me off. They've been telling me they have a check ready every Friday. I show up, it's never ready. I said that's been going on for 2 months. And I said, until I get paid, I'm not doing service for you. And you know what he said to me? Instead of saying, hey, sorry, man, we'll get that squared away. He goes, if you don't staff my projects this weekend, that's not going to be good for you. And he said it like he was going to try to kick my ass. I just laughed. I thought, okay. And so came the weekend, I didn't staff his stuff. So all of his people were calling me, all the on-site salespeople, because they all knew me because I was out there every weekend, checking out on stuff. And I was friends with all these people. But they called me that, hey, where are our people this weekend? I said, hey, Rhett told me that if I didn't have people come out this weekend, he threatened me that it wasn't going to be good for me. And you guys are 2 months behind. And I said, I told him I wasn't going to send out people until you guys pay me. I'm not going to work for free. And I'm certainly not going to front your payroll for the marketing services that you want from my company when you called me. So that's what it is. I guess that sales meeting that next on that Monday, and was just like all the salespeople went off on Red, and I was glad because I'm like, dude, you're so arrogant. I mean, to sit there and threaten me when you owe me like I think they owe me like 20 grand at the time, which to them is a drop in the bucket. Heck, they make plenty more than that on each home they sell, and just they were selling like 1,000 homes a year, so they're making plenty of money. What it was is like these companies, I feel like they get too big and they start making a lot of money and they think they can just blow off stuff. Ah, don't worry, just call somebody else. We'll get somebody else in the Rolodex, and don't worry about that vendor, no big deal. Well, after a while, you run out of people because you piss everybody else in the market and they won't work with you anymore. Like Century Communities, I don't know how they're still working in Denver because every single subcontractor there thinks they're a total joke, and they're like, I will never work with them. I know companies that went under because the Century Communities would hijack people like these small subcontractors, like tile people and stuff like that. They'd rack up so much bills with them and then not pay. Those people would go out of business. Like, who does that? You know? And there's a reason why corporate America has a horrible stigma to it, and it's not because they just it's just this whole profits over people when it comes to anything. It's just pathetic. And so that's why I'm so glad that I got out of that, because I felt like I was 40, I was making good money. It wasn't like I was having well, on paper I was making good money if I could get paid. So when I did get paid, it was nice, but it was just always just this fight to get paid. But it's like I started thinking, I'm like, if I don't make a switch now and make a total jump out of this, what's going to happen is I'm going to toil away for the next decade to get more frustrated with life and all that stuff. And the only thing that'll be different is I'll just be older. I'll just be dealing with the same problems. I'm like, I don't want this anymore.